recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Hello! Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week's guest is someone I met all the way back in junior high. Yeah. The one thing I always remember about this guy is his big, huge smile. And he was always goofing around and having a good time. I later discovered that in addition to being such an extremely funny dude, he was also an amazing musician. I'm not even kidding. This guy could wail on the drums like he was Animal from the Muppets. And he could also play the accordion. I mean, who plays the accordion? Well, he did. And he rocked it. So, without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show the man who's actually responsible for getting me my first official job out in the workforce. And someone that's probably logged more hours in the sky than some pilots I know. He's my buddy, the one and only, Mr. Franco Bacco. All right, Franco, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. So, but I don't know how long it's been since we talked last.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, when was the last time we actually spoke? Because we've sent messages through the years.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
we haven't
actually spoke like on a phone. I don't even call anybody on the phone anymore. But
No.
It has to be over 20 years.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
At least. I mean, because I think it might have been, before I shipped off to Central Washington University, and I have no idea. It's been a long time.
I think you were going to Green River.
Oh, what? Yeah, that's right. And then
I think we used to bump into each other at Green River before I was going there for a while too. And then you took off and I went to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot has happened since then.
Oh, I know.
So how's your family doing?
Good. I have 2 kids. I have a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl.
That's insane.
At least that's what they decided they wanted to be. And I've been married 18 years, and actually, I'm here. I've been in Washington now. I came back in 2002, and I'm actually just got word yesterday that I'll be moving out of state again.
Oh, wow. So wait, okay, so you had moved to what?
Yeah. So if you remember, I gave you my old job at Dairy Queen.
Yeah, you got me my first official job on the books.
That you hated. I think I remember you just hated it because they had you cleaning all the time.
Well, yeah, I didn't work there for long because I applied to work at Fred Meyer, like a big step up. But it was a step up because they paid more, I don't know, 50 cents more or something like that. Yeah. And I didn't have to, do the spring cleaning and stuff, washing all the walls and everything.
Yeah, I was at Dairy Queen, and all through high school, I worked at Dairy Queen.
Wow.
That was after my paper route, my Seattle Times paper route, when I used since 5th grade. I can't even. It's hard to believe that they had 5th graders working,
Right.
back then. This child labor, and I would 7 days a week for the Seattle Times.
Well, it's wild too because they're trusting little kids to wake up at before the sun comes up to go out and
I had to
run
collect my own money too. It was so the way the paper routes worked was they gave me a bill every month. So if I had 100 subscribers, they would charge me for all the newspapers at the end of the month, and I had to pay it. And it was my job to go out and collect all that money. And if I was short, I had to give reasons or not, but other than that, I had to pay them. It was weird. It was
what?
to think about. Yeah.
Did anybody just refuse to not pay?
Yeah, and then you can write up. You had to write them up and stuff, and then they would give you credit for it on what you owed them. But I had to go door to door collecting money, which was great around Christmas time because you get good tips and stuff. Yeah. But man, I'm I'm 12 years old.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah,
isn't that weird to think about? The 12-year-olds doing that. I did that all through 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Yeah.
I remember going on a paper route. One of my buddies, I don't know, they might have been training me. They're like, man, yeah, you should do it. And recruiting, And I think I went out on one of these rides with them and I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool and everything. But I think what you said, I was like, I don't want to collect.
Yes. My dad used to get, I would say it was kind of a bonding thing with my dad because, the Sunday paper, the Seattle Times Sunday paper was heavy.
Yeah.
It was 2 pounds each newspaper. And so my dad on Sundays, he would actually, he'd take me around Auburn to do my routes. And then we'd go out for donuts at that donut shop right there that people keep crashing into.
Is that Duncan? Or is that no?
The one by Scarf Ford.
Was that Winchell's?
Yeah, or it's up there on Scarf Ford, right at the end of the street where our high school was, and people are always crashing into it. There's always, like, every couple of years somebody goes through the window.
They finally had to put those big giant like metal things up because
there's like that Godfather's Pizza that we ate at back there where the homeless guy came in and it stunk really bad, and we asked for a refund.
God, I totally forgot about that. That was with you.
Yeah,
I was trying to think who that was.
And, on Sundays, we would go there after delivering these big-ass papers, and we'd go, and it was kind of a cool thing, but it was like, then my dad's like, we're going on vacation. I'm like, I got a paper route. I had to go find somebody to cover me, and it was just like, it was horrible. I mean, I can't believe they let kids, I'm like, I want my son to do some work. I got him I don't know. It's just like, I used to go around the neighborhood too, mowing lawns, I'd be knocking on doors. I had people, lawns I took care of. And as soon as it snowed, most kids wanted to go out and play, and I wanted to grab a shovel and go make some money. I was like, yeah, let's go shovel some driveways,
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, I don't see kids doing that in my neighborhood at all.
No.
I've lived in this house for 9 years, and not one time has a neighborhood kid knocked on my door and said, hey, can I mow your lawn? Or
isn't that crazy?
Wash your car or nothing. Yeah,
that is weird.
Like, wow. So I told my son, I go, you need to start, working, doing something. So he's like 14, 15. So I went to the neighbor back behind my house. I was like, hey, my son will mow your lawn. And he's like, okay. So I made him mow the lawn, and he got paid. And so
nice.
I was just, at that time I was working, since 5th grade on, and so like we'll go back to where we were talking about. But yeah, I left Dairy Queen to go work for Northwest Airlines.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, and I told him I got somebody to cover, take my place. And that was
that was me. Yeah,
he makes the best burgers.
I think I flipped a couple burgers with my dad in the backyard barbecue, over the years, but that's about the extent of the training that I had for that job. But
that was before before they handed you a blizzard and dumped it upside down. It was electric, and I'm like, this is so stupid. Like they turned it upside down to show you that it's not melting or something. I don't know. We didn't have to do that back then.
Yeah, no. I think I flipped a couple burgers. Like I was only there for like maybe a week or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah, I think they kept having you clean, which they did all the time. You were always cleaning the grill and cleaning the walls.
Yeah, understandable. But I think the worst thing that they had me do was the inside of the drive-thru, and I'm sitting there trying to here I am like with a bucket of like suds and soap with a sponge, and I have people like driving past. They're like right behind me, so I'm trying to scrunch between the wall and the cars, and like I see this guy, he rolls down, and he goes, "Hey buddy, I think you missed a spot," and I'm like, okay, I don't need this shit. Like,
yeah, or they have like, need you to go pick up the cigarette butts in the parking lot.
Yeah, I'd much rather do that. Which is what I ended up doing a couple of years later when I was at the parks department, which that job was like, that job was nothing.
When I was younger, I had to buy my own stuff. Like I had 3 brothers and sisters, and my stepmom wasn't really fond of us, of her non-real kids.
Yeah.
So it was like I kind of had to like buy all my own stuff. So I had to get money to, and I had to work. But
right.
So I went to work for Northwest Airlines on the ramp, loading bags, and I was like 18 years old, and I thought it was so cool. But I don't know if you remember though, but I always hung out as much as I could at your house. I mean, you and I became really close, kind of like our senior year,
right.
I think.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're right. Because I remember you in high school, like probably maybe the second half of high school, we like started hanging out into
up
at Green River.
School since Washington Elementary, I believe.
Well, I didn't go to Washington, so we met.
Oh, you didn't go to Washington?
No. Yeah, I met you at Cascade.
Yeah, Cascade.
I probably only know that because of the yearbooks.
Yeah.
And that's where I really remember you the most is from high school.
Yeah.
And into junior college or community college or whatever people want to call it. But man, I loved always hanging out with you because you were always clowning around, man. Like you were always goofing around.
I still do.
Yeah, it was great, dude. I love that. Like you're like goofing around, playing pranks. Like we go through the drive-through on your days off, and you'd like screw with them. And that was before they had like the cameras where they could see you.
Oh yeah.
And it was like right around the corner, so like you could screw with these people. Like what would you say?
I remember I think we drove backwards through one of the drive-thrus one time, which that was a mistake because I wasn't that good of a driver. And I'm like going backward, like had to get out. And then I tried to open a bank account at like Wendy's. I got some Ford.
There's
Open a
many
bank account.
there's many times when you go and you're like, yeah, they're like, sir, can I take your order? And you'd be like, yeah, can I get some napkins, some salt, some ketchup?
Yeah, everything that was free I could think of. I just ordered. They're like, pull around.
And see, I always try to explain to people, I didn't do drugs. We didn't do drugs or like drink back then. But you would be really confused. You'd think we would because we were doing stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe that's why we didn't, is because we were just already naturally goofy and we didn't need.
I went to this weird. Okay, so anybody who's listening went to Auburn knows about that church on the corner. And it was like a real, like they thought it was haunted because they hear people moaning and all these like. But it was like, I don't know what happened, but sometime when I was like 12 or 13, my parents converted to this really crazy religion. It was so strict.
Oh wow! So it was actually a later conversion, like in your.
Well, yeah. So I probably in like '88, I think, when I moved to Auburn, we started going to this church, and my parents like fully went in, and it was like this super strict. I don't know if you remember. I couldn't wear shorts.
Yeah.
I couldn't have sleeves below my elbow. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't watch movies. I couldn't listen to any music except gospel music. My sisters couldn't cut their hair. They had to wear dresses. It was so strict. So I was that one kid in school, like when they brought in the projector for the class, and we're like, we're going to watch I'm Joe's heart or Joe's lung or whatever. Joe had a body part, and they made a movie for everyone. And I had to be excused to go to the library.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, it was so embarrassing.
I didn't even think about the school stuff.
So all in school until high school, when I knew I could like get away with it, like nobody from my church would find out and my parents wouldn't find out. I'd stay behind, and my favorite time was like, remember like some classes like on your last couple of days would be like, we're just gonna watch movies. I'm like, oh my god, yes, it's awesome. But like you can only get halfway through the movie because it's an hour period, and you had to come back the next day. And I remember thinking like, oh man, I hope Ariel gets her voice back in The Little Mermaid. I'm like, this is amazing, and like,
which religion that was it was Pentecostal, or
it was Pentecostal, and it was an old. So there's different kinds of Pentecostal.
So it's not like, okay, so just to clarify, it's not Amish, but it's like very.
No, it's very close. Oh my god. I saw that show, Leaving Amish. That was me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and we weren't quite like down south where they got snakes and they're like, they're gonna
speak in tongues,
have a poisonous snake bite you and see if No, it wasn't that, but it was a very old school, like, how the Amish decided they were gonna pick the 17th or 18th century for their time.
Why would you ever do that?
We picked 1970s or something, 1960s. That's what they picked.
Oh wow!
I don't know.
Wow. So, that's wild. Yeah, because
and so we converted, and like the pastor was like calling the TV the one-eyed demon, and and I'm like 12. I'm like, oh my god, there's demons in the house. It was just so scary. Anyway, so high school, you were like, I met you. I think what happened was I got my driver's license and I got my own car, and it gave me this freedom to not have to be home, and I always had a job, so my parents couldn't really keep tabs on where I was, and like I would go to your house and you introduced me to Saved by the Bell.
I totally forgot about that, but the one I remembered the most was Three's Company. Like
Three's Company too. Yeah, you were like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, I remember this as a kid. My mom used to. My real mom wasn't. She wasn't in this church, but she was when I lived with her as a little kid. And I remember that was her favorite show, and I was like just hanging out at your house, and I felt kind of bad because like all I wanted to do was watch your TV.
Yeah. You're like, dude, can you start taping? I'll buy you tapes. I will buy you tapes. Like if you want to like start taping these, and like you'd sneak over, and it was so funny because I remember. Okay, again, I gotta paint a picture here. We are not like crazy kids. We're like, I mean, maybe for your religion and sneaking off like that, maybe that was seen as like a bad thing.
That was a big deal. Yeah.
Oh, I remember. No, but like, it was funny because we go to my place and then we're like closing the drapes as if someone is like, as if like you're being like followed by the FBI, and we're closing the drapes so we could watch Three's Company and Saved by the Bell. Like, that's so ridiculous.
I remember you and John were always like, yeah, let's go get a video. I'm like, yeah, let's go get a video. And you guys would go to that Auburn Valley Video right in the center on Main Street. And like with all the windows that anybody driving by could see. There was one gal from the church who lived like literally like half a mile away from there. And you guys would choose this video. And I'm like, dude, I can't be seen. And so we would wear I would wear a costume. You had all these like props and stuff. I'd wear a wig or a hat, and we would try to get in there, and I'd cover my face and I'd avoid the windows, and you'd be like,
that's so funny.
what about this movie? Psst, hey. And I'm like trying to avoid the window. I'm like, yeah, let's get
Yeah, you're like, you would cover like half of your face. You're like, yeah, like you're like kind of, walking with your hand on your, forehead, just walking around. And I'm like, and we'd just be laughing so hard because, well, first off, you're already funny. But if you put someone in a situation like that, it's way funnier, especially if, it's taboo. Well, not for us, but it was for you.
Yeah.
So we knew that it was like, in the back of our head, we're like, what if someone does? But I would always think to myself, wait a minute, if someone catches you, then what are they doing in this situation where they're catching you? I guess unless they're driving by, but they'd have to be driving.
Yeah, if they're driving by
right
and they saw me, because like, here's what would happen. They would see me, right? So depending on who they were, they either call my parents and then my stepmom and everybody would be like, oh, they would just frown on me. I need to like, they call it praying. I need to go pray through. I need to like, they'd all like take me to the front of the church and lay hands on me, and I'd have to like pray the devil out. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It's like, or the pastor would go up in front of the whole church and call me out.
Right.
And embarrass me.
Okay. So, what's fascinating about this is like, it was kind of at that point in time where it was right at the onset of the internet. Which is funny because you guys were able to have computers, right?
But no internet, yeah, we could have computers, but here's the thing.
You had video games.
CD-ROM started coming out.
Yes.
Audio and video. And it was like, I had to go ask. So it was like, there became like this real, like it was crossing over into this territory of video, right? Because you could like put a CD-ROM in, a CD in there, and technically they were like these little videos, And I remember going, and I wanted to get on the internet because it was like 93. I got on the internet really early with those AOL and was it Prodigy and all these. And I got the okay from the pastor. He's like, yeah. And I told him it was for, to learn about icebergs and like stuff like that. I don't know. I made up something. And I had a little phone book. The internet actually had a phone book. It was like a little book of every website.
Wow.
And it was like the weather and all this.
How big would that book be today?
Oh, it'd be infinite. It would never stop printing. But anyways, I got the green light, told my stepmom, I go, yeah, I can do it. And I even got my own phone line put in at my house. Cause remember back in the day, you'd be online and somebody pick up the phone. They're like, hello. And you could hear them come over your like internal speaker on your, and so it would disrupt the internet. So I'd be like, get my own line. Well, about a month later after that, the pastor changed his mind and went up there and had one of those yelling sermons. And he was like, and there's going to be no internet in this church. And everybody's like looking at me. They're like, yeah, looking at me like because I was telling everybody I got the okay. Well, guess what? The church has a website now.
Oh, really? Oh, of course. Well, that's the easiest way to, recruit,
but
right?
I was really into computers. I don't know if you remember. I used to
you were the biggest person I knew into computers by far.
Bruno's Computer Superstore.
Yes, is that the one that was like down at like near South Center, like in that?
So South Center was the tech area. You had Computer City, you had CompUSA, you had Sonic Computers, you had Bruno's, which Bruno's was like the last place you could go to get Apple II and Commodore software. And we took your blue car. What was it? You called it the Blue Devil, I think.
Yeah, Duke the Blue Devil. Yeah.
Oh my God, Smurf. That car. We drove that out there and we never thought, remember we didn't know if it was going to die.
Oh, no. Okay. So I think that I think I remember this. So like you made
me drive.
Well, you said something like, it can't be that bad. And I go, dude, it's really bad. And you're like, sir, it's not that bad. And I go, listen, if you want to drive, I'll let you drive it. And you're like, yeah, okay, let's go. So it literally died in the middle of an intersection or something.
I know.
And you're trying to start it. And I'm doing that thing where you like sink down in the seat and you're sitting there like waving at people. Yeah. Hello. And you're trying to start it and it's not starting. And I go, you have to pump the gas to start this. Oh God. You're like, oh, and you're like freaking out. I could see like beads of sweat coming down. You're like, oh dude, it was so bad. But I was laughing. That was one of the hardest times I've ever laughed. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. You were kind of like, uncomfortable. That car would die on me when I was going, that little road that goes up to Green River, that like little windy road. Yeah. Well, if that car stopped, like, if you let up on the gas on that car, it would just die. So when I would go up that hill and then there was that light, that first light where you could either turn way up that windy hill or you could keep going straight, I would pray that the light would be green. And when it was not, then my car would die and sometimes it would not start. And I was like, oh God, are there cars that crappy now? I don't think there are. Cars
I don't know.
People used to have really bad car problems back in the day. I don't think that exists.
Very seldom do you see cars broken down on the road or anything anymore.
It used to be everywhere.
Yeah, it used to happen. Yeah, and very seldom. I mean,
Right.
I saw a car fire on I-5 a couple of weeks ago, but that was a freak accident or something. It was a newer car, but
Wow.
yeah, it doesn't happen a whole lot anymore like it used to.
Yeah, no. I talked to good old Raceage from back in the day, and his dad was like towing us around and stuff. We were always like working on these cars, and I'm like, man, I can't wait for the day where I don't ever have to ever work on my car. And like the last car I had, I mean, I think I had the brakes done on it like once, and then it just basically essentially was just oil changes. It
Yeah,
lasted
I've always
forever.
kind of had a car. I've always had Mustangs. I don't know if you remember my Mustangs, but
Oh, yeah.
on my fifth one. But I did.
You're
a
on your
cross
fifth
country-
Mustang?
I'm on my fifth. Actually, I'm giving it to my son. I bought it in 04, brand new, and then I'm handing it over him.
Wow.
When he gets his driver's license after driver's ed, stick shift.
Nice.
He learned-
Oh, nice.
I've always had to keep on working on cars. For a while, I was keeping up with new cars, but I'm kind of like I don't know. I just like to have my cars
gearhead?
paid off and keep it for a while. And
Right.
I don't mind. With YouTube, you can almost do anything. I mean, I've been
Yeah,
doing
oh,
my
yeah.
own brakes since my dad showed me since I was like 19. If you added up the thousands and thousands of dollars I saved over the years doing my own brakes, but YouTube, man, it's just, I got the tools. Sometimes I like the challenge, but I'm not much of a mechanic, but I can do quite a bit, but I'm still messing around with cars. But yeah, it's kind of the worst was I had a Mustang and I had to drive from Minnesota to here, and my transmission went out, and
Oh,
I got
wow.
stuck in Fargo, North Dakota. And the mechanic goes, "Well, if you keep transmission fluid in, you should make it." I went through 15 gallons of transmission fluid by the time I
my
got
God.
to Seattle. Yeah, I looked like the Road Runner going across the desert with a cloud, and it was like this red mist I was leaving on everybody behind me.
No way.
Yeah, and halfway through, like my exhaust system fell off, and I had to throw it in a garbage can. It was sticking out like 8 feet out of a garbage can at a rest stop. I barely made it here, and even the mechanic was like surprised. But yeah, but that car you had, correct me if I'm wrong, but did that thing finally die because you forgot to put oil in it?
Yeah, it was John's dad. He goes, I think he towed it back to his place, and he's like, I'm going to take a look at this. And we went inside, and then he comes in and he goes, hey, and he like did that kind of thing where he, points at me, and then he just did the one finger and he goes, come here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And he's going, come out here. And then he goes, I just checked all the fluids in this car. And I go, oh yeah? He goes, yeah, it didn't have water. It didn't have transmission fluid. It didn't have brake fluid. It didn't have, it had literally, I think the only thing that it had in it was gas, but literally no oil, nothing. There's nothing in that. And he goes, you have to take care of these cars, especially these old cars. You really have to take care of these cars, or they're going to do exactly what this car's been doing to you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I was like, do you remember that? Do you remember John's old stepdad? He was like a very intimidating kind of guy.
Yeah.
I know that he would smile because I've seen him smile before, but he wasn't smiling when he was talking to us. But I do remember, speaking of cars, I do remember back when you were going to be turning in your Mustang.
Dude, what a memory.
And
Yeah, you just had it. You just now, by mentioning that, you just brought back that memory of the car.
And you asked me, it was me, John, and Sean. And you're like, hey man, I got to turn this car in like tomorrow morning. You're like, oh, right on. You go, let's take it out for a ride. And I go, what? You're like, yeah, let's take it out for a ride tonight. And I go, all right. And dude, I cannot believe how much you ran that car. Like it was like basically, I'm trying to think of like a scenario of like a movie.
Well, first of all, we got to remember what kind of car it was. So I finally got my GT.
Yeah.
It was an 89 Mustang GT 5-liter with it was like the car I've always wanted. And I got 2 tickets in a week.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
Yeah,
that's why you had
the
to.
insurance company was dropping me. Nobody would handle me for insurance because I was 19 years old. And I was like, oh God, we gotta go. I had to trade it in for a 4-cylinder Mustang.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, let's take this out. And I just remembered. You remember that old lady I scared? She was crossing the street.
Did you rev? You
and I
like
revved the engine.
Yeah.
And it went vroom, and she got startled, and she started screaming at us, or pointing her cane at the window, yelling at us. I was like, oh my God, I felt so. You just reminded me of that. I forgot about that. I remember just doing circles, and then I'm like, okay, getting you guys sick in the car, and I'm like, we got to go the other way now to undo the dizziness.
Yeah, didn't you? Like it works that way. That's hilarious.
No, like rubber. I mean, that car was powerful.
I don't know if there's a different time, but you took that thing up that little cemetery road, that little windy little road that does the lookout over the Auburn, Washington, you know?
Uh-huh.
And you went up that so fast. I was like, I almost pissed myself. The other guys are laughing, and I'm like, okay, I don't even go on roller coasters. This is way out of my I'm like I'm a scaredy cat when it comes to that kind of stuff.
You know, it's again stupid. I mean,
I'm 18 years old, man.
Now, but
yeah,
I mean, that was just careless. And yeah, you look back at yourself and you're like, man, I'm just careless, man. It was just stupid.
Right now you think back to now you think of your kids doing that stuff, and you're like, oh, they better not fucking do that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, now you can track them and stuff. You got,
right.
It's like I can track their speed at all times, and it's like,
oh gosh, yeah, it's definitely.
We didn't have that back when I was in the church, or man, I'd be I'd be in trouble all the time. But it was very,
I see a guy like on the computer, like in the back office. He's like, "Sir, I see Franco Antonio Bacco. It looks like he's at the Auburn Valley Video Store."
Yeah, they would.
This can't be true.
Yeah. I mean, here's a story. So one time I went to that Lover's Package there in Auburn. I was like, you know what? Let's go. My friend of mine, I wanted to go see these just crazy stuff, and we'd go in there just embarrassed to be in there, and I pretend I was like, oh, we're looking for a gift for the groom, whatever.
Yeah,
just
right.
Story. Well, I locked my keys in the car.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, I don't know who to call. Everybody that is in my bubble is in like church. I'm gonna go, hey Dad, can you come get me? Where you at? Lover's Package. So I had to break my window.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, that's all important. I just like, screw it. I had to break my window.
My God.
And I just told a story that I don't know how. I was just driving and a rock hit it. I was just
way.
Driving, get all the glass out, drive home. I was like, I am not going to get in trouble for this.
Dude, that is insane.
I know. But now, just like in high school, I mean, I was kind of like this balance act, I'm trying to you're trying to fit in with your school, and you got all this stuff going on. I couldn't participate in sports. You were always into sport. You loved football. I remember always football.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had that turkey bowl, and I couldn't play sports. Couldn't join band. They're not playing, Christian music.
Yeah, you know what you just reminded me of? Do you remember that kid, Jared, that little kid that lived down the street?
He went to my church.
Oh
Jared,
my God. Yes. So I just remember, out of all the people I ever met in the history of this religion. Because I didn't know a lot of people, but I
came to the church one time. I don't know if you remember. I invited you, and you came, and you sat there, and I think I played the drums.
Oh, yeah, because you were awesome at drums, so I love that. But that kid, I'd go down the street and I'd shoot hoops with him because he could shoot around, but wasn't it the rule that you can't join organized sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
organized sports, yeah. So play for fun.
And this kid was like this little tiny kid, and he could shoot better than possibly anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he was insanely good. And I always talk to him. I go, so you've never, and he was a huge sports fan. So he knew all about the baseball players. He knew about the basketball players.
Radio.
Yes.
For some reason, we could listen to the games on the radio. We couldn't watch it though.
You've never seen Michael Jordan? And he goes, no. And I go, oh man, it makes me so sad. Like I'm touching my heart right now. Like makes me feel so sad. Like, because a kid that he was that skilled. And it was just kind of like a wasteful kind of deal there. But yeah,
Yeah, well, you got to remember, like, even he was like more secluded than me. Like,
yeah,
I was one of the few people in my church that actually went to public school. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I was older and like, I don't know. I don't know why we're talking about religion, but anyways, this book came across to the church, and it was called like Sheep to the Slaughter or something like that. And then like the church, all the people got scared, like, we got to get our kids out of public school, the sex ed and all this. We're gonna start our own private school. But Frankie, you go ahead. It's too late for you.
And I think they're right, because you're sneaking in, watching Three's Company and all those.
Yeah, all those horrible things, like Saved by the Bell, and I mean, and what's funny is like going there, like like assemblies. I heard, the music, but I didn't know a lot of the pop culture. You guys were always quoting like stuff from SNL.
Right.
When SNL was really popular. And I remember like Terminator came out, people were like, hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're in Spanish class. All right. Like I didn't know all these things. And remember, Ethan used to scare the crap out of me because Ethan was always listening to like heavy metal. And he had like these devil shirts.
Like
and he would
satanic.
do that thing where you do with your three fingers, like the goat.
Right.
I don't know. And he'd be like,
the devil horns.
Devil horns in the air with his tongue flicking his tongue, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a demon in this dude. He's demon possessed. That's what it is. That's what demon possessed is.
He was kind of satanic back in the day. Yeah.
I was so scared.
And he was big and scary. So
he was like, he would shave before school, and by sixth period he had a 5 o'clock shadow, and I'm like, who is this dude? It was a full grown beard, yelling listening to devil music. He was intimidating and scary. I didn't know what to think of him at the time. He was nice. He wasn't ever mean to me, but
right.
I was like, I was going to the school trying to you couldn't really fit in because I was not supposed to even have friends like you. Really, I wasn't even, but I got away with it once I got my car. And I could,
I'm about the best influence for a bad influence that you could possibly get. I'm like I'm trying to think of the worst thing I did like back in high school. I don't even know.
See, that's another thing I liked about you. You were always like on the straight and narrow. Like you weren't doing drugs and you weren't crazy, and I was like, like if you were super like into the drugs and stuff, that would have probably been too much for me. I would be like, oh man, I can't. No, there's no way I'd hang out with
Right.
But
we didn't.
You and John were really good people just in general, film movies and
it was so fun. Like when did you go over to? I think I probably brought you over to the basement one of those days, and then John had that like little drum set. It was like this little just, I don't know, it was like 2 drums and a snare or something or a cymbal. And John and Sean, they would be the ones kind of like jamming out, and I would be just playing like the tambourine or something like that, just screwing around. And then you come in there and you're like taking this tiny little 2-piece drum thing, and you made it sound like, I mean, you should have seen like John's face. He goes, holy crap. He goes, if we ever start a band, you're the drummer. Because like John would always get on. Sean would like kind of like strum the guitar, and then John would screw around with the drums. But you came in and it was like, okay, you are actually a drummer. Like you became skilled as a drummer in church. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right?
We had a full drum set in the church. Like it wasn't like a quiet Catholic song, music like we actually got jamming. I would break sticks. Be, and that's how I kind of learned how to play. But I wasn't supposed to be playing that kind of music. And I think our favorite song we used to like to jam out was "Wipeout."
Love that song. Was it the Safaris? Wipeout. Yeah, that's a great song. No, but you'd come drum. And we'd make these stupid videos and everything, they were fun. That's as crazy as we got. We act stupid on video.
Up in costumes. Remember we'd hit the thrift stores and buy all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. But one of the highlights of the entire being down in the basement was when you busted out your accordion.
Oh yeah, my dad had taught me some accordion.
And we were like, who is playing the accordion? Who even has an accordion?
So my dad's not from the U.S. My dad was from Italy.
Oh, okay.
And he as a kid, he moved to Peru. But the accordion has been in my family for a while.
It's amazing.
I still have my dad's original accordion. Like it's a 1952 Petosa, like whatever. But my dad, so I was like, he wanted me to play the accordion. I'm like, Dad, they don't play the accordion here. Like even in school, then
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to play the accordion?
That's awesome. Franco, the only people that I've ever heard of that play the accordion their last names are Yankovic.
Yeah.
Frankie Yankovic, Weird Al Yankovic. Like, I mean, yeah, it was awesome. Like, we were just like, whoa. We feel like we're at a concert.
Tex-Mex, you can hear some accordion, some Tex-Mex music, and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
But it is not a popular instrument.
Well, it's not a cool instrument, but it's certainly cool to like watch someone play it right in front of you. Especially if you've never seen one.
I really didn't know a whole lot. I just knew, a couple rhythms with my left hand.
It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's like someone that can play. That's like someone that can half-ass play the bagpipes. I don't care if you could play the bagpipes good or not good. If someone's whipping them out and they're playing in front of you, it's pretty cool. So like, it was pretty awesome, man. Like I don't know. I just gotta say that was a nice highlight for me as a young kid.
Yeah, so a funny accordion story, and then I'll move on. So I had carried around this accordion with me all over when I moved. So I moved to Minnesota, and I took my accordion. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot. I took my accordion, and I wanted to break free from the church, everything. So I just bailed, and it was just funny because I got to go to the movie theaters without fear of getting caught. And I was like, Mortal Kombat came out and all that. Anyways, well, I got into a really bad car accident. I was okay, but it smashed up my car. And I was in shock. And the only thing I had in my back seat, I had my freaking accordion. And I don't know why. I just grabbed my accordion and started walking down the freeway after in shock. People were like, "Are you okay?" And it was in Minnesota, so they probably thought I was big into polka. They love that. So
Right.
I was like,
yeah, Minnesota and Wisconsin, they love that.
And I'm walking down the street with it. I don't know. It was just
weird.
Like,
so, did you play the accordion? Did you play it for people?
I tried playing it too, but like, I don't know. I kind of did it for my dad. My dad plays the accordion too, and my uncle was a famous accordionist in Venezuela back in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, all over. He kind of traveled over South America playing the accordion. He did it for a living, and my dad learned, and he wanted me to. So I kind of wanted to do it because my brother wasn't going to do anything, and kind of none of my cousins wanted to play. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I got to carry on this tradition,
right?
My family, and I couldn't stick with it.
Now, Franco, do you have the accordion right there, like in the same house?
Right? I have 3 accordions.
Can you? This would be a tall order, but can you play a bit of accordion for me right now?
Actually, it's buried deep.
Dang it!
I've been in a closet buried deep.
All right. Yeah, it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot.
I don't know if I could even remember how. I mean, it's been long. I don't play anymore. I try to get my son. He plays piano. I thought, oh man, should I carry on the tradition?
Right. Now, do any of your kids know how to play the accordion at all?
So my son can do his right hand, which is basically a piano keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, when my dad visits, he tries to teach my son the accordion. So he learned a few chords on his left hand, but I don't know. My dad really wanted to teach him. So
wow.
So maybe when we move closer to my dad, maybe I'll have my dad teach
my
son how to play. But
yeah, you got to keep it going, man.
It's not a cool instrument. You're not gonna,
well,
not gonna
you score any chicks with it.
Yeah.
So that is funny, man. I can't get the accordion out of my head now.
So, and I have a really nice one. It's made with the keys are made with ivory.
Really?
You can't make anything with ivory. So, and my dad, it's his. He gave it to me, but I priced it. I priced it at over $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't sell it though.
No.
He moved on to the new Roland electric accordions.
Really?
Built-in amps. He could put his headphones in and plug in his headphones to his accordion, and you can't even hear it. Like only he can hear it.
Does your dad still play the accordion?
Oh yeah, and Roland makes some really state of the art. You want to make a saxophone sound? He can do that. You don't even have to pump this accordion if you don't want to. You can pump it for the air for a little bit extra sound, but it does it all on its own.
Wow. Now, so amazing. I have a couple questions about your dad. Now, is your dad still part of the church? Or is it?
No, the only person. So they got divorced, and that was the thing that left a sour taste in my mouth because they had kind of after 28 years of marriage they got divorced. But all of us have left except I have my baby sister who married a preacher's son and still goes to church. She's the only one. And this my stepmom, who I still keep in touch with. I mean, she raised me for most of my life. She goes too. So, but as far as my dad's out, my other sister's out, my other brother Enzo, he doesn't go anymore either. So we're all out. So we're actually like normal people now.
We're actually normal people.
Yeah.
Now, so your dad, where does he play the accordion? Does he play it like the local bar, or does he play it like events?
No. He plays at home, but whenever we get together, we're like, we ask him, "Come on, Dad, get your accordion out," and we all just gather around him. And
gotcha.
And he played at my sister's wedding. So my dad plays a lot of different music. He doesn't just play Italian music. He plays music from Austria, Russia, French music, German.
Do you have video of this?
What's that?
I'm sure you have video of this somewhere, right?
We have video. Yeah, I think we have videos of it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so he played. There's a famous Austrian song that actually in Peru they like to play at a wedding, and he plays it, but because she was in the church, nobody could dance to it. So we just had a bunch of
So your dad is he was born in Italy?
Yeah, Naples, Italy.
Okay, and then he moved to Peru.
Because after the war, he was born right after World War II. Italy was in shambles. My grandfather was in the Italian army. He was captured by the British in Tripoli in Africa. My grandparents were down there colonizing like Tripoli or Libya for the Italian, for the Italian Empire at the time.
Yeah, didn't a lot of people go to Peru and like Argentina from like Europe?
Yeah. If you go to South America, Mexico, Venezuela, Argentina has and Venezuela have a huge Italian community.
Wow.
So my whole Bacco family, they all got together. All the men were like, okay, we're going to take our families to Peru. And so my grandma came, all the men went first, and the Italian government set them up where the coca grows now, but
yeah,
they were all set up in housing by the Italian government. And about 2 months later, my dad came across on a boat from Italy to South America, and my grandma she just knew they were going to America, and she thought North America, she thought United States. She didn't know where she was going. They were just like, oh, we're going to Americas,
Yeah.
So ended up there. And so he grew up, all my uncles were already older than him, but he grew up his childhood in South America. That's why I speak Spanish, because he spoke Spanish, as a young child, and the Italian that we spoke was it was like a dialect on the east side of Italy called Bari, which was what they spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really picked up the Italian part very much, even though my grandparents always fought yelled at each other in Italian. It was a dialect only found in one region of Italy. But my dad spoke Spanish. Then my cousins who were born in Peru all spoke Spanish, and we would go there every year to Peru for like a month. My dad would take all his whole vacation, and he worked for the airlines too. So we would just all go down to Peru. And so I kind of had to speak Spanish at home, because my stepmom too, she was from Peru, and she raised me since I was 6, and she didn't speak English when she first came. So it was Spanish at home and English at school.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of something, Franco.
Yeah.
Remember my next door neighbors? They had these little girls, and they were little Latino girls.
Or Latina, yeah.
Or Latina, sorry. and they didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish. So you were like, hey, say this to them. And you'd have like us say these crazy things to these girls. And I'm like, Franco, you better not be saying like some weird stuff.
Oh, me? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, because you could be doing that to a 18, 19-year-old me, and I would just say it. I wouldn't care. But I think you said, I don't even remember what it was. It was some sort of, to me, it didn't sound right, but to them, they would giggle and run around and stuff like that. But it was like, me gusta los niños pequeños, or something. Something like I like to eat small children, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so what it was for, I don't know, for a couple of years after that, they would just see me and just start laughing. I wouldn't even say anything. They'd just start laughing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, here we go.
Yeah. And I was listening to your podcast with Sean when he was on, and I forgot. He reminded me too. Remember, I used to translate the Spanish channel for you guys?
Oh, yeah, dude. I
tried to, because they were so fast. It's kind of hard to keep up.
Yeah, right. That is such a great superpower to have. Like, I'm so jealous of my friends that I had this one friend of mine who would go down to Mexico, and she does not look Mexican. I mean, like, not, full. Uh-huh. I think she called herself a halfie. Yeah. So she would go down there, and they would start talking shit, and she's fluent in Spanish, mm-hmm. and she would just start talking back to them like really fast, and they're like, oh shit.
Like, I do that all the time. I shock people too, because, well, first of all, even though my dad's from Italy, my grandparents on my mom's side came from Norway. So I'm like, I'm very Norwegian too. I'm half Italian, and the rest is like Norwegian. So I'm a gringo, I look like a gringo. Everything about me is a gringo, and so when I start just fluent Spanish, they're like, oh, wow. It's like, but you know what? It's always helped me too to blend in with, like, I actually get along. I always tend to hang out with Latinos. I don't know what it is. The culture thing. I grew up in a Latino home where we spoke Spanish and ate Peruvian food and listened to Spanish, stuff all the time. And I had those Tumis, which is like the Inca gods. Before we were in church, we had Inca gods everywhere in our house and stuff. So like, I always felt very comfortable around like the Latinos, but at the same time, I'm such a gringo too. It was like a little bit at first, it's like hesitant, but then like, I've always kind of just really jived with them.
You were talking about, you weren't able to connect with some of the pop culture that we were back in like high school and stuff like that, right? So, but I've seen you recently on Facebook and social media. you're posting a lot of, old toys
80s.
and cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
So
is that because like you're catching up or what? What?
it's my age. And it's very common for people when you hit a certain, when you're in your 40s and 50s. Well, I'm 46, but
Nostalgia. Yeah.
you start, the nostalgia. And really, before I got into that church, which I think we converted to that church like in 87, 88, 87, around there.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was, I got to watch Red Dawn and Rambo. Those were like,
He-Man. Yeah.
He-Man, and I'm a huge vintage toy collector.
That's awesome.
I have accrued a massive GI Joe collection from 1982. Well, here's what happened. I started with 1982 to 1994. Although early 90s, I dropped out because I hung on to GI Joes for a long time till I was like 15. Like people were like, "You need to get rid of these. You're 15. You got a toy." But I didn't have a. You got to remember, I didn't have a TV at home. I played out my movies with my toys.
Yeah.
And I would have just full like trilogies. I mean, or more with my toys. Like, okay, and have just played all out. But I started out, and then it got escalated to like even the newer stuff. To like I got Knight Rider. You saw my Knight Rider.
Yeah.
I remember commenting on that. A-Team. When I was a kid, I remember got to watch A-Team before we got our TV taken away. So I don't know what it is, but I just really got into it. So I have a massive collection. I even have. I mean, there's stuff I wanted as a kid, never could. Like the aircraft carrier, the U.S.
Do you have pictures of like I've seen just like solo pictures of some of these?
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures. I can send some to you. Right now, because I'm planning on moving, I just boxed everything up and they're in a storage unit. But the largest playset ever created in history was by Hasbro for the GI Joe USS flag, and it's 7.5 feet long, 3.5 feet wide. What? And I never saw it in real life as a kid. I just remember talking about it on the playground and the Sears catalog. We saw it in the Sears catalog. We're like, no way, an aircraft carrier? I mean, no kid could really even get that.
No.
I mean, who had a room? It's a giant conference table.
The kid from Silver Spoons had that maybe.
Yeah. So I got that.
Wait a minute. Where do you put that?
It took up a parking spot in my garage. I was going to build a bottom deck. I was going to modify these guys on YouTube, like built a bottom deck, like a motor pool, and you could put all your other stuff. But
wow.
I have almost everything from 1982 to 1989. I have almost everything. And then I'm working on the early 90s right now.
That is insane. That is crazy.
And I go to toy shows. I travel to toy shows everywhere.
Wow.
I went to 2 during the pandemic, which is weird. I mean, I went to one in Chicago and another one in Xenia, Ohio. I flew out there for a toy show during the pandemic. So
that's crazy.
I'm on the hunt. It's harder though, because once you've gotten all the easy stuff, now I'm looking for a little bit more rare. And and it's just crazy the prices now on these vintage toys. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I went to a toy show in Chicago and I got a 1982 Snake Eyes, which I got a good deal on it, and it was better than eBay. And I paid $175 for the freaking GI Joe. Yeah,
that's wild,
it's
man.
Very because people people my age, yours are my age. If you look at it now, kids don't play with toys like they used to. I mean,
right?
It's all video games, it's iPads, it's phones.
Yep.
Very little toys, and toy makers have gotten really lazy too. You don't see any creativity or ingenuity with the toys because it's just all this junk now.
It's about safety.
When a movie comes out and it's like, okay, just make a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
But when we were at our age, that was like the golden years of toys. Like they were getting so competitive that they had to outdo the next one. So the toys were amazing. And I had like Kenner Mask is another one I do. Watched the cartoon as a kid. So yeah, I have a huge vintage toy collection that eventually one day when I move soon, I get a big enough basement to put a museum.
That's awesome, dude. Can I come visit one of these museum halls of yours?
Oh, yeah. When I move, I just got word that I am moving to Indiana. So,
Indiana? You're gonna be Lee's next door neighbor.
Yeah, Lee lives up. So I've been talking to Lee. So Indiana is, I never thought I'd be leaving the Pacific Northwest, but yeah, I'm going to be at the airport there, and I have a report date of July 12th. So I am going to be leaving our beautiful state of Washington.
Wow.
And I'm actually, right now, I'm getting my house ready to sell. But about 4 years ago, my baby sister, who I said is still in church, she lives in Indiana, and that's where I got the connection to go visit. And about 4 years ago, I'm still working for the airlines. I've been working, June will be my 27-year anniversary.
That is wild, man.
Which, I started with Northwest, and then we merged in '08 with Delta, and I just put on a new uniform. It's just like, and I bounced around. I was in Minneapolis for 5 years, and then I went to work in Houston, Texas for a while at the airport there at Bush Intercontinental. And then I transferred to Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know what I was doing. I think I wanted to get out of Minnesota for the winter. So I was like, I'm going to go to Louisville, and I put in for it, and I got it. And then I went back up to Anchorage to work, and then I finally got back to Seattle. But yeah, '08 we merged, and I became Delta. We became Delta, and I'm actually still here at SeaTac Airport. I've been working here where I first started at 18 years old.
Wow, you came around full circle right there. Like,
yeah, now I'm leaving. So, but yeah, so I was going out to Indiana and visiting, and I really enjoyed it there. And working, I was like, man, I read a book that kind of changed my outlook on money. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's a very popular book. I'm like, man, I gotta invest. I gotta do something. I can't be working the rest of my life. I mean, and I tried to get into real estate on the side. I wanted to be, and it's stupid. I wanted to be a landlord. I want the title Lord. That started out as a joke. I was telling people, I want to be a Lord. It's the only way you can be a Lord nowadays, and they're going to call me Lord, Lord Franco. And it started out as a joke. And I was like, oh, wait, a landlord. My grandparents, that's how they survived in Peru. When they came from Italy, they just saved up all their money. All my uncles had to work and they gave all their money to my grandparents, and they built like these apartments, and they were just like, so I started trying to get into here in Tacoma. I was like, man, these are getting expensive.
Yeah.
And this was 4 years ago before it really got expensive. But I'm like, man, I'm going to spend my whole savings on on a triplex, and I'm not going to make any cash flow. I'm like, how? So my sister told me to come out to Indiana. I made some friends and people that she knew. And 4 years later, I have 21 rentals now in the state.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Happened so fast. So I'm actually going to Indiana, not only for my family who's out there now. My other sister also moved there, but I have stake in that state. I have stake in that state now, and
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
I got into it right timing, even 4 years ago though, you're thinking, man, but things were sitting on the market for a long time. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden it just started. I'm competing with people from Chicago over there because they just drive over and they start, people over from Chicago investing there. But I went down to Indiana. I'm like, man, it costs basically is 50 half. You look at a house,
wild.
Divide it in half, and that's how much it would cost in Indiana.
That is insane. That is crazy. I get it though. I mean,
but I'm a lord. I'm a lord. I am a
Lord Bacco.
I'm almost a land baron. I don't know how many properties you have to be a land baron, but I'm a lord in Indiana.
That is awesome, man. Well, congrats on that. Yeah. So, you know what? I just thought of something when you're talking about the airlines. There's two stories that I just remembered. I contacted you when I was in college. We were in this club in college, and they were having a big convention in New York City. And we were like, well, we can't afford to go to New York City. And I go, you know what? I mean, this is a long shot, but I can contact my old buddy Franco. I think he works at the airlines. So I contacted you, and you got us those buddy passes. They're like for like $98 each way. So it was like $196 round trip to New York.
Yeah, which back then was really good because tickets were expensive back then.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember you going, you guys sure you want to go to New York? Because you could take a trip to Jamaica for $49.
Yeah, it was such a weird pricing. They had our buddy passes. It was like cheaper to go to Japan sometimes and go to.
I remember telling the guys that, and they goes, Bacco says we could go to Jamaica for $49, and everyone looks at each other like, that does sound better than going to. It was really funny. No, but I also remember, I think that we had my family were flying to Wisconsin, and there was a stopover in Minnesota, and you're like, yo, come up and visit. And I think you came up for 10 minutes, in between one of our flights.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I used to go.
That's hilarious.
Say hi to friends that are flying. Actually, before 9/11, they gave us all kinds of freedom to do.
That was
walk off the jetway, go out there and get my bag before I went to the bag room and grab it, and then just get it back.
Flying was so much more fun back then. It was really fun. In my opinion. I
remember as a kid, they used to take field trips to the airport, and they take the students, and they could, go out the window, and anybody coming to visit, meet you, could go to the gate, and they'd come out. They'd have balloons and stuff. Hey, it was
totally. I was talking about that with my mom the other day. My grandparents would walk us to the actual gate, And then we'd be in the plane. We'd be waving to them. We could like wave to them as they're waving to us, like as we're taking off. Like, you can't do that anymore.
I know. Yeah. When I was working, so I was in Anchorage during 9/11, and right before that, so I was really getting into riding my mountain bike. I rode my bike to work and stuff there in Anchorage. Anyways, in order to get to the my area where I worked, like literally where I worked in the bag room, I would go to the ticket counter. I go, hey guys, and I would lay on the conveyor belt behind the ticket counter, and I would ride that thing. It was like a 10-minute ride, and I'd ride it, and I'd like come out of the chute right where I worked. I'm like, hey guys, like you can't do that today.
Oh man, that's awesome. Dang it! Is there any video of that? I'm always wanting video of this kind of stuff.
Oh no, but we didn't. It was all. Now they check me every time I go to work. I'm a terrorist suspect.
Yeah,
every
right.
time I go to work. I'm like almost 27 years, and I'm a terrorist suspect every day I go to work.
Yeah, that was your whole plan this entire time. They're like, oh, it's almost 30 years in. Here it comes. Well, kids.
And he could lose it any minute.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome, man. Like that. Yeah, we always talk about that. Like, because 9/11, we were in California, like on a road trip. So we were kind of like, what do we do? But at least we weren't stuck at an airport somewhere, because I know that
we had people
shut
stranded
down
everywhere. I remember up in Anchorage, we had hunters. So you had bush pilots that would drop off these hunters. They would dump them off in the bush and take up and go, okay, we'll be back here on Wednesday. Meet here at the lake where we land. And well, the hunters came to meet their their rendezvous, and no pilot was there to pick them up.
Wow.
And they didn't know what was going on because they've been hunting for a week, and there was like some started hiking all the way back to Anchorage, like took days, and they sent out search parties, and some stayed put. And we had like all kinds of people lost in the wilderness up there. But
dude,
I took advantage, of it. I was actually on the news up there in Anchorage because we were in our break room. We had nothing to do. They had me. Well, it was so stupid. They had us looking for bombs at first on the plane. I'm like, I don't know what a bomb looks like. They're like, yeah, every night we need to do bomb sweeps.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I had to go. They would pull the jetways back from the plane, so like you couldn't get on them. And then I would have to get these stairs and go up in the plane with a flashlight and look all underneath the seats and the closets.
Oh my gosh.
The cockpit, and look for a bomb every night for a while. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I thought it was dumb. I don't know what a bomb. I'm looking for like a bowling ball with a candlestick sticking out of it. So I was there, but right after that, I was like, man, I started looking. I'm like, man, prices are cheap in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, right.
It was like 7 months later. I'm like, I got to take advantage of this.
Did you go?
I went to Egypt 7 months after.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's so smart.
Yeah, and because I'm a realist. Okay, if anything, you'll be safer after 7 months after 9/11 than ever. It was like super safe.
It's funny that you say that, because one of my friends had his house broken into, which is very violating. But I remember saying, well, you're safe now. People who commit crimes, they may be assholes, but they're not necessarily stupid, at least for, street smarts. Because after that, what do people do after someone breaks into your house? You get like security cameras, you call the cops, you get neighbors watching. You're safe. You're safe now. But it didn't matter. They moved. They moved like right away. But it's funny. Back to the airlines. It was funny when you started working at. Was it Northwest when you first started working?
Yeah, at Northwest.
Yeah. So I just remember it was so crazy for you when you first started working there, because you'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend, man?" I go, I don't know, like watching TV or something. You're like, "You want to go to a Mall of America?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, that was the hangout, Mall of America."
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Isn't that in Minnesota?" You're like, "Yeah, you could take you with a buddy pass." And I'm like, "What?" I go, "Wait a minute," because at that point I'd pretty much only flown to Wisconsin with my family and stuff like that. And you just always talk about like, hey man, you want to go to like New York City or something? Like, you want to go to like want to go to Florida, or like, it was so weird. I was like, oh, what?
Yeah, well, that Mall of America, that Minneapolis was our base, but like you could take a red eye.
Oh, gotcha.
Get into Minneapolis like 5:30 in the morning, and then the mall is literally like on the other side of the freeway. You spend the whole day there, and then you come back on the last flight of the night at 9 o'clock. So
isn't it crazy seeing all these malls just shutting down all over the place?
Yeah, it's actually kind of sad. Well, I live in Federal Way by the Commons Mall. That thing's been dying since before COVID.
Or as I used to call it, The SeaTac Mall.
SeaTac Mall. I still do sometimes, but yeah. I was like, I'm going to keep calling it that. But yeah, I go there for Target, I think, and the movies. That's it.
Oh, yeah, because it's like at the end of the mall, right? Like Target?
Yeah, but they're building a grocery store on the other side of it now. So.
Oh, okay. They've just shut down. There was a mall down in Phoenix that they shut down, and that was the mall that they recorded Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh.
And then the other mall that's like the closer mall to me, I think they just shut that one down last week or the week before or something like that. And I was like, wow, I was just at that mall like last year, but hey, people are not going to malls anymore. Amazon. Yeah, it's all Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon and I don't know. I don't like going to the mall anyways, so
yeah.
Maybe when I was younger, but I'm like, man, I want to get in and out. I don't want to spend time looking at stuff. I just want to get what I want. I usually, when I go to the store, I already know what I want. I'm just going to get in there and get out,
Yeah. But, yeah. And that Mall of America, that was like a kind of like a new kind of a thing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I liked it because this is so stupid, but going back to that church thing, I could actually, so I could fly there. And I could watch a movie on the plane. And nobody could catch me. And then I could actually get to the mall and go to a movie, and who's going to see me there, right? Seeing a movie, and I'd come back. It was like all cloak and dagger. And I was actually smart about it because I wouldn't like bring anybody else from the church with me, no matter how how convinced they were. Like, but there was always like these young guys that always would like to go together, and then one of them would like feel so bad and he would turn himself in and then like rat out everybody that went with them. I'm like, man, I've seen that happen too many times. I'm not taking anybody.
Oh man, that's so funny, man. I didn't even think about that kind of thing. That's so funny. Yeah. So
and I never had alcohol either. And I was like, my first glass of wine was my first alcohol was alcohol. And when you're in first class,
right?
Because they put us in first class all the time when there's seats. And I'm like, they're like, would you like a wine? I'm like, I'm not even old enough. I'm like, yeah. And I didn't know this, but I must have had a sinus infection or something.
Yeah.
So when the plane was depressurizing, when we were going in, I had this sharp dagger pain in my brain, and I thought it was God punishing me for drinking that wine. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, while I'm rubbing my temple.
Were you saying it out loud, or were you just like kind of like rocking back and forth silently?
Well, I was whispering it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I won't drink again.
Guy next to you is like, what is going on over here with this kid?
And I'm drinking a Corona right now as I'm talking.
Awesome. Dude, so like how many places do you think you've traveled to over the years?
The last I counted, so we bought a map. So when I got married, the big thing about what I wanted to do as a family is travel. It's really important to me to expose my kids to culture and to, different, traditions and cultures and everything. I want them to be like, I don't want them to be xenophobes, and so we have a map that we bought, and you scratch it off every time you go to a country. But me, myself, I think I've been to a little over 20 countries. I've been to 42 states, which I plan on knocking out the last 8, which are all in like the New England area. When I moved to Indiana, I want to do road trips up there. But I'm there, and my kids have been in quite a few. Too. So that's our thing. My kids are like, we want jet skis. And I'm like, no, we don't. We're not a jet ski family. We travel.
We're not a jet ski.
You know what I mean? You can't do everything.
Right.
I guess you can try. You can have a boat, a jet ski. You can go camping and have an RV. You won't have time to do it all.
Yeah. Right.
And
you can rent that stuff.
It's going to sit in your garage, and it's going to,
exactly.
How are you going to make memories out of something that's just sitting in your garage?
Yeah. You could have a friend with a jet ski. That's always the best, or a boat. And
they don't make it easy anyways. Yeah. Everywhere you go, it's like, this lake bans jet skis, and you need to launch here, and you need to pay this, and you need a permit, and you need to get that. And it's just like, you know what? Let's just go on a trip. I work for the airlines. Let's use it, right?
Yeah.
And you think about all the money I saved on airline tickets. I mean, we went to Ireland a couple of years ago. We got first class all the way from Seattle to New York, and I was there, and I'm like, I wonder how much these tickets cost. And I was just searching it, and I would have paid $14,000.
Oh my God!
We were first class all the way into Dublin. $14,000 for us to fly and I think I paid $150 in taxes. It was like,
that is insane.
So you think about that, how much that would have cost, and really it kind of, it's part of the job. You can count that as an income almost.
Wow. Almost. Absolutely.
I
That's
have people that
crazy.
work for the airlines for years and they don't travel, they don't fly anywhere. And I'm like, how can you work here and not fly anywhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you've always taken advantage of that. That's
yeah.
definitely smart. Yeah, that's awesome.
And we do we try to, so every year we try to do 2 international trips and then multiple domestic trips.
You kind of remind me of that movie Up in the Air with George Clooney, where he's like just flying all over the place, like flying all the time. I don't know if it's actually like that, but I was like, that guy's kind of like Bacco. He's like just flying all over the place. Except you're not firing everybody when you're flying all over the place. I'm assuming. No, but you know, it's funny because the places that you're gonna be able to travel to are kind of like, well, it's going to be easier because you're going to be like right in the middle of the country, right? Because like, wasn't Chicago kind of like always like a really big hub because it was like in the center of the country, right?
Yeah, well, Indianapolis is nicknamed the Crossroads of America. I mean, they got freeways going everywhere, and really because I was going to all these countries, right? And I'm like, man, I need to visit some of my own country places. You know what I mean? Our own country has beautiful places, which we have been doing, but. Sure. Yeah, when I'll be able to reach some of those other places with a car, you know, and actually stop and see things. And like, I've never been to Gettysburg. I've never been, I want, you know, where Rocky Balboa ran up the steps.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, I haven't been to any of those places. I've been to Boston and New York and the big, ones, but like I can really enjoy and explore the east coast of our country because it's so beautiful and so much and right now is a good time because international travel is hard to do right now.
Definitely. Right now,
we had a trip planned to Brazil this year and Korea, and it was just all, we can't go now.
North Korea or South Korea? Just
no, South Korea. My son, for his 16th birthday, wanted Korea this time. So that was going to be his birthday gift. And so we were going to go to Seoul because we have a nonstop Seoul flight out of Seattle, and didn't work out, but it's okay. We did a lot of trips during the pandemic, so it was. Have
you ever seen those pictures from satellites about North Korea and South Korea? It's crazy. It's like, because South Korea is kind of like, very modern, and it's just all lit up. The whole entire thing is like lit up. And then North Korea, it's like 2 lights, probably, Kim Jong-il and and the people that are cooking his food or something. I don't know, but it's funny. It's crazy. You got to see that. It's like it's just a satellite image of the world, and you could see South Korea, and then you could clearly see where North Korea is. I
would love to go to North Korea. I actually watched. I follow a guy on YouTube who went there, and it looks like an interesting. I mean, Pyongyang, whatever the name of this capital, it's like very modern and everything, and then everything. Once you get out of that city and you go out, it's like turns into 1920s.
So
everywhere.
Weird.
People are dressed like 1920s. But the problem is, as American, you can't get in there. But I am actually in the process of getting my Italian citizenship, dual citizenship.
Whoa, that's wild.
It all became a whole. Yeah, whatever. One of my bucket lists was to become a European, be part of the European Union, mainly Italian citizen, dual citizenship. As an Italian passport, I could go, but not as an American.
So what's the coolest place, or what's your most memorable place that you've been to?
Well, it's actually funny. The most memorable place I had the greatest time was at my brother's wedding in Puerto Vallarta, which is not, something you think of. Oh, but it was because my family made it enjoyable. But as far as like a cool place to visit that we would go back, we loved Ireland. We did a road trip. I rented a stick shift car where I shift gears with my left hand, sat in the passenger seat, and drove all the way from one end of the island all the way to the other, stopping at different places.
How long did that take?
Favorite. We did it in a week.
Wow.
It's not that big of an island, but we stopped in like Cork and Kilkenny.
Did you see some cool castles?
Oh yeah. See, I was a big castle nerd. After I saw Braveheart, remember when Braveheart came out? I was actually working in Houston. I was like, that's awesome. I'm going there. And I just took a flight to Edinburgh and Scotland, and I went into William Wallace's, where he fought, where Robert the Bruce, you can see where he climbed the cliffs and got into the castle, and Stirling Bridge and Falkirk. And I was just so fascinated with European history. I actually started collecting medieval swords.
That's
I
crazy.
had 2 6-foot knights.
Whoa.
I was just going nuts. I had battle axes and shields.
That's crazy.
I don't know why. It was a phase I went. It's kind of like I'm a collector. I don't know what it is. It's like in my
awesome.
DNA. I'm wired.
I love that. Dude, I love that stuff, man. That's cool.
I love castles. I love medieval history, in Europe and stuff, and that's what's really fascinated me. So
that's awesome. What's a place that you visited that you'd be like, not looking to go back or wouldn't recommend people going to?
I was really disappointed with Cairo in Egypt. I was expecting, you see them in movie, you see those pyramids in the movies all the time, and this and that. It's just like I had it all built up, and I, of course, had to do with the timing of after 9/11. Egypt's #1 economy was tourism, and they were hurting extremely bad, and they were like piranhas on me, like constantly lying and tricking me and telling me stuff that wasn't real, like just always pretend. It was such a fake niceness. But when I got to the pyramids, so stupid, but I took a camel ride. I was like, oh, I'm gonna take a camel ride, and they charged me whatever. I forgot, 15 Egyptian pounds. I don't remember what it was. And we got out like way out in the desert, and then we took some pictures, and then they were going to leave me there unless I paid them again to right back. I'm like, you're going to just leave me here in the desert? I'm like,
wait a minute, it's not a round trip you're paying for?
They charged me double to go back.
Dude, you're not paying a round trip when you take a camel? Like,
yeah, it was. They dropped me off in the desert, and I'm like, what? They were constant. And then and because after 9/11, if you're American or British, they gave you an armed escort. And I had a dude with a machine gun like following me. Wow. And I'd go down into the pyramid. I'm like, oh wow, the pyramids. And I go down, and there was like trash littered. There were like empty water bottles, wrappers, trash, and it all on the ground and the sand. And you're looking around, and you're looking at the hieroglyphics, and this dude's standing there, and he's like pointing out a bird, and he goes, bird. And then he pointed out a fish. He goes, fish. And then he held his hand out because he wanted money, because he told me that was a bird and a fish. It's like, man, what is up with these? And then like you ask for hey, where's the bathroom? You got to tip them. I'm like, what is going on? Like common courtesy, you have to tip. And then I got tricked into like lying about the museum wasn't open till some time. And I got into a street fight.
Jeez.
In the center of the the Islamic district, whatever. I tried to get out of there. I was supposed to fly to Amsterdam, and they canceled my flight, and it was only one flight, and like people were going like ape shit at the ticket counter, and I'm like, oh well, I guess I'm like, man, I'm stuck here another day. I better go back to my hotel. And I as I was walking, they do this scam over there too in Egypt where they try to pretend they're really nice, and they tell, oh no, you need to shop here. And then they go in there, they walk in the store with you, and they give this little nod or wink to the store owner. So now the store owner knows he brought you in. So all your prices just got jacked up because they got to pay this dude a commission, even though he has another job. So everybody has a job, and then they also work doing this stuff on the side. So this was happening. Well, this taxi driver starts trying to follow me. And I've met these Japanese kids, and I'm like, they didn't speak English or Egyptian or whatever. I'm like, so they're like, hostile. I'm like, oh, follow me. Well, this taxi driver was following us. He's like, you need hotel? And we're like, go away. We know we're fine. We know we're going. And then he parked the car and walked with us. And and I knew what he was going to do. He was going to walk into the building with us. And as soon as he gave his little wink, whatever, they're going to jack our prices up. He gets paid for it. I told him, get away. I go, I know your scam. And then he told me this. He goes, I am happy you Americans died. And
oh my God.
This is like 7 months. Remember, we're all angry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all angry. And I go, what?
Uh-oh.
He goes, yeah, you stupid Americans. We hate you. We're glad you died. And anyways, it escalated. And I took my backpack off. So they have these tourist cops everywhere that were like protecting the tourists, because as a tourist, you get hassled so bad that they actually have police that do nothing but keep these guys off you. But when they're not around, they're on you, like just everything. And you tell them one thing and like, where are you from? I've always made up a story too, that I was like, I gave a fake name. I was a student and all this stuff. And they had they always knew somebody or had a family member who knew where you were from or something. I don't know. But anyway, I took off my backpack, and I'm not a violent person. I've only been in maybe 3 fist fights in my entire life.
Yeah.
I was ready to beat this taxi driver right there in the freaking Islamic district of Cairo. And thankfully, this tour guide who knew me, I had hired him for escorts to the different things. He was like, Franco, no. And he grabbed me. He's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And the taxi guy started running because they weren't used to like the aggressiveness, I guess, they think you're just going to take it. But
right.
He ran off. I got checked in the hotel. I couldn't sleep. And so I got up and I stormed the city looking for him.
Oh my gosh.
And I got the best deals when I was so mad, because everybody goes, hey, why are you so angry, American? Why are you so angry? I go, I don't want to buy it. I don't want to buy this. I don't want to buy it. And then they were like dropping the price so low on the stuff that I was like actually buying stuff because I was so determined not to buy anything. I was so mad. I was like, man, what the hell? I was not ready mentally prepared, because you got to remember, it's a cultural thing to haggle, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. You go there as an American who pays price tags on everything, and you're just overwhelmed.
Wow.
I mean, even when they do when they sell a camel, they get this whole ritual of because they would cheat each other on the camel selling, that they would train the camel to come back in the middle of the night, and so they have this whole ritual you can watch where they tie the camel's leg and they do this, and they don't even trust each other, and then you go there and you're just taken advantage of. And I was so taken advantage of that it left a bad taste in my mouth, the way everything. So
wow,
I guess
dude.
if I would go, I really don't want to go back. My kids want maybe want to, but.
You're a lot more brave than I would be, traveling over there to the Middle East right after 9/11. It's pretty hardcore. It's smart. I mean,
yeah. Oh, I got really good deals.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
in an armed escort.
Yeah, yeah. But you wouldn't catch me over there. But yeah, that's what makes Franco Franco. Now, is your middle name is actually Antonio? Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's like one of the coolest. It's like one of the coolest full names I've ever seen. Franco Antonio.
I was embarrassed of it as a kid, though.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You were embarrassed of it? It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember going to school in I grew up in Anchorage Elementary, and having a name like that and a dad who spoke Spanish at that time in Anchorage, there wasn't very many Latinos in Anchorage. I remember my dad telling me he couldn't even buy cilantro in the grocery store.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was when the Latinos started moving, you started getting more variety of different foods and stuff in your stores and stuff. But anyways, my dad he hated, he couldn't find cilantro. Here they had Americans had parsley or whatever.
Yeah,
he needed
parsley.
Cilantro, and
that's not the same.
But I go to the school. And my dad has really broken English. I got this name. They're like, "Oh my God, we have a foreign exchange. Is some international student."
Yeah,
I spoke English just fine.
Yeah,
my mom was American, and they had me go. I didn't know what they were doing. They just pulled me out of class every day, and I had to go in a little closet with headphones and learn to speak English.
Wow. And
my name, everything didn't really fit up there in Alaska, But later I became self-aware. I didn't even know I was Italian. I don't know any of that. When you're young, you don't know.
Sure.
Who's what race? You don't care. You're just a kid.
It never occurred to me when people. I always grew up with Vietnamese and Mexicans and
Filipinos.
Filipinos.
All my
exactly.
best friends growing up were Filipinos.
Exactly.
Even now, to this day, I love Filipino food and everything because I've been so exposed to Filipino culture. Yeah, out here you have that kind. You different ones. Even now I look back at high school and I'm like, oh yeah, I went to school with a bunch of Italians: Mattioli, Acciani, Capone. These are we could have started our own mafia. I'm like, you know what I mean? But I didn't even acknowledge that back then. You were just a kid in Auburn. I went to school. You didn't know about all this stuff. Now I think throughout the years, through media or whatever you want to call it, they've kind of compartmentalized all of us into different groups. And you're like, oh, I'm Italian American, European American.
Did you ever get any pushback on your names and stuff like that? Or?
No, my name, teachers sometimes would
really.
Oh, that's interesting. But everybody would say it all the time because it rhymed.
Yeah, right? No, it's great.
Yeah, it always rhymed. And I remember before an assembly, we were all gathering, and what was his name? Oh, he was a senior, and I was a sophomore, but he just took a liking to me. He was one of those loud, obnoxious kids in class, but he was really cool. He looked like Clark Kent from Superman. That's what he reminded me of. Yeah. But I don't remember his name. But he kind of teased me, but he was also kind of just was really cool with me. And I remember walking into the assembly, and I was walking in. He got the whole school assembly to start chanting Franco Bacco.
What the?
Franco, and I was like, oh my God.
Again, it is a cool name. Franco Antonio Bacco. It's amazing. So the one thing that I did notice about you is that you always had you had that look of John Travolta in you.
It's funny you said. Just last week somebody else told me that. I'm like, man, I haven't heard that in years. It was all through school, so they're like, "Oh, do you look like John Travolta?" But man, somebody said that. I'm like, man, the last time I heard that, I'm like,
there's this one picture with you and I'm guessing it's your daughter, and you look a lot like John Travolta in this picture. I don't know,
a young John Travolta, not the one you got
right. Yeah, not the bald badass John Travolta. Yeah, no. Yeah, the younger John Travolta. Yeah. Exactly. So. I know you got to get going here pretty soon, but there is this one thing that I've seen on Facebook that you purchased. I think you purchased, and I'm really fascinated with. It's a 3D printer.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about this 3D printer. I'm really fascinated with this. How does that thing work exactly?
Oh, so, well, I got into it because I'm a nerd and I play tabletop gaming,
Yeah.
Star Wars Legion. So I paint my own miniature armies, and I would battle it out down in Tacoma at the game store. We'd put our armies on the table and battle. Well, I needed terrain, and I tried making it out of styrofoam and all that, but I was like, man, I'm going to get me a 3D printer so I could start making my own trees and buildings and stuff. And yeah, it's been a really cool thing, and I've been kind of a hobby I've taken on. And painting, I'm not really good. I'm not good at painting. I'm not an artist, but it's just something about painting miniatures under a magnifying glass that just kind of gets me to zone out and just I kind of get lost. And so I wanted to up my game by using a 3D printer to print out my own terrain.
So what do you use to print it out with? Is it plastic or what?
I use two different plastics. There's PLA and PETG plastic. Do you know when your weed eater runs out and you got to take that little spool out of the tip of your weed eater?
Yeah.
It looks like that. It looks like that, but with a ton of basically a weed eater spool full of plastic. And I just I feed it in there, and I get programs off. I don't make my own designs. I'm not that good. I get it off the internet, and I find out like, hey, that looks like a cool building. I'll print that, and then I let it run for like 3 days straight.
That's
so
crazy.
It takes a long time.
Yeah, because I have it takes a long time to do.
It's not it prints. It takes forever to print stuff.
That's
you gotta
wild.
let it run and just let it run for like days sometimes.
Wow. Well, hey, Franco, do you have any travel plans coming up soon? You said that you're going to be going to where you
I
you
just
wanted
got
to
word
go.
on moving. We were supposed to go hang out with my sisters and my family in Nashville at the end of the month. Go hang out in Nashville a little bit, but I think I'm going to cancel that because I got to packing and
got work to do.
Getting the house ready to sell and but travel plans. I do need to go back to Italy to see my cousins. So once Italy opens up, which doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon, I'll probably be heading to Italy. Go see my cousins, and then I got to go to Peru to help my dad get the rest of his stuff, and then take my son to Seoul, Korea. Those are the next trips.
Well, hey, maybe you can catch a flight out to Phoenix one day, and we'll hook up for lunch or maybe some Three's Company.
Yeah, I can do that whenever, and also I have some family there in Mesa.
Oh, Mesa, nice.
Mesa, yeah. Uncle Vincenzo, he's out there.
Vincenzo.
Vincenzo, that's my son's name too, but yeah, Vinny.
That's awesome. Or, we can always go back to Auburn and we can, go to Cascade, visit some of our old teachers.
Yeah, I used to always try to get you to do that. You always thought I thought it was so cool when those kids would come back to say hi to their teachers and th're all grown. I'm going to do that one day.
Did you ever do it? Did you ever go back?
Come back with a mustache and go, hey, teacher, what's up? And all these kids are like, wow. He's like...
I remember you always saying that. You're like, hey, you want to go back and visit, like some of our old teachers? And I go, not really. And you're like, we should do it. Or no, wait, remember the time that, oh my gosh, one of the greatest pranks you used to do to me all the time. Do you know what it is?
Oh, let me guess. When I used to sign you up for the Marines and the Army.
Yeah. And then you used to call me. When you turn 18, you get put on those lists where they call you and they try to sign you up for all the different branches of military. And you would always call me, and I would fall for it every time.
Sergeant Karnowski. This is Sergeant Karnowski from the United States Marine Corps. How you doing? You're like, fine.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
That was one of my pranks. Remember they used to have those ballots you could fill out information, and then at school. Yeah. I needed a pen. I wouldn't have a pen. I'm like, oh man, they're giving out pens. And you had to go up there and talk to them. So I'd always sign you or someone up for like the Marine Corps, the Navy, Coast Guard. I was signing up everybody for every branch of the military until
jerk.
I actually signed myself up one time, and I couldn't. You're young, you can't say no. And they were coming out to my house, and I actually physically went outside of my parents' house, and I swapped the numbers on the house.
Oh my God.
So they wouldn't find it. The freaking Marines, like they couldn't figure it out. Like they go, oh, 130, 132, 133, what, 143?
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, you'd be like, and you change up the names too. You'd be like, hey, Sergeant Lewis calling from the United States. And I'm like, oh, hi. You're like, you ever thought of being a Marine? You ever thought of being in the U.S. Army? And I'll go, not really. And like, it'd go a while, and then you'd start laughing, and I'd be like, is there something funny, sir?
Well, I thought it was weird because you were the voice. You could do all kinds of voices.
Right.
I was never good at doing voices, but I somehow got you with the Marines, man. I guess I do a good Marine impersonation.
Yeah, you could do a good stern adult sounding, confident male voice.
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring that up too. Remember, we used to sit around and do prank calls all day.
Oh,
until we
love
got in
prank
trouble.
calls.
Do you remember that public access show with
Oh.
the retarded guy that used to talk about the Mariners? He wasn't like full.
Yes.
He was like maybe half retarded. But remember the guy with the Mariners? And we would call him. We would do those operator emergency
Yeah,
breakthroughs.
yes. I was talking
And I
about
didn't.
this.
We were like, you can do that. So we were calling and we're like making up names. And I even used my real name. And he's like, Franco. Yeah, good name.
Yeah, we'd act like we were WWE guys, and we have a breakthrough call for Randy Macho Man Savage.
And it was funny until your mom got the phone bill.
Oh,
we didn't know. Remember, we didn't know they were charging us, 75 cents per emergency breakthrough?
Something like that. I
had to
forgot
pay
about
you-
the
we had to
charges.
split it. I had to give you I think $13 or something. It was like $26 we owed your mom. She got the phone bill from all those emergency breakthroughs we were doing.
I loved calling those shows. It was crazy because we found out that you could literally break through their line and interrupt their call, and it would make a sound on live TV. You'd be like, "Brrr, you have an emergency call from blah blah blah," and I'm like, and it'd be on the air, and we're like, this is awesome. I wish I had those
Poor
tapes.
guy just wanted to talk about the Mariners.
Yeah, he's just sitting there so Edgar Martinez had a double. You have an emergency call from Denton, and be like, "Damn it!" That was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, maybe we'll have
Prank
to.
calling was my all-time
It
pastime.
was fun. Yeah, back
Spending
when you didn't have
Saturdays.
to. Now you could. I think they can actually get you in trouble for doing that.
Yeah, I used to have the restaurants around Auburn, like Denny's. I had their payphone numbers written down and saved on
Yeah.
on a paper, so I could call the payphones while people were waiting in line at Denny's. And is Denny there? Stupid stuff like that, and just calling random numbers or plumber. I had a whole skit laid out too, where we would call a plumber and we'd act like we just clogged the toilet. And it was like shit and water everywhere. We needed a plumber. It was just stupid stuff, but it was fun. I talked to my son about the other day about prank calls because you can't do prank calls anymore.
Right.
It's hard to. Because I remember even when caller ID first came out, I was like, oh my God, they got this caller ID, and it was like, no, you star 69 or something. I don't know what it was. It was star something, but it got harder and harder to the point where you just can't prank call anymore.
Well, man, hey, good catching up, man. We're gonna have to do this again. It was awesome actually talking to you, man. I haven't talked to you since like you said, probably
Long time.
instead of and I'm not counting hey man, I'm running to my next flight. How you doing? Yeah, good. All right, well, see you later.
Yeah, and I need to listen to more. I listened to some of your podcasts, but I need to find. I want to know what's going on with you and too. So I mean, we're literally just catching
man.
up.
And
We're catching up right now on live.
Right.
We didn't catch up on old times before we talked.
Right. And no, did you say you used to have a podcast too?
I was a big Xbox gamer with an achievement. I know you weren't much of a gamer, but do you know what a gamer score is on Xbox?
A gamer score.
So every game has achievement points. You get points,
Okay.
and it's it adds to your score. Anyways, I was really into that. We did a podcast for about 4 years talking about Xbox 360 games and getting your gamer score up. I was ranked at one point second, the highest gamer score in the state of Washington.
Dang.
And you'd go to, I go to PAX, and I got into E3. Got to go test for Warner Brothers Studios here.
That's awesome.
And I was really into gaming back in my, I guess, late 20s, early 30s, where it was extreme. It was bad. I don't game hardly any now.
It was bad.
I wasted a lot of my life on that stupid Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I'm just too busy now, so.
Well, dude, we're gonna definitely have to hook up one of these days, and or at the very least, we'll have to do this again because it was fun.
Yeah, I'll swing by Phoenix. I'll come and say hi to you.
Awesome, man. And you know what, Bacco? Those days, when I think back to those days in high school and right after high school, so much fun. It was always just always laughing. That's what I always remember is just always laughing. And we were doing it sober. We weren't drunk. We weren't on drugs.
And I still do it at work. I go to work to have fun. I don't go to work. I go to have fun.
It's awesome.
My goal is to make at least one person there laugh every day. You know what I mean?
It's awesome.
I love, just
I wish
life
more
is
people
short.
had that attitude because, it is possible to get things done and to still have a good time.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, you can.
there's only one life to live, like the old soap opera used to say. So
I appreciate you guys too. Like that during, when you're young, the age we were, and I had to get this, I was trapped in two worlds, basically, this religious world, and then like trying to like be my, find out who I am in the world. You guys gave me that, like, that escape. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was, you guys were good people that I didn't have to, like, I wasn't going to get into serious trouble with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
And I remember just always being so fascinated with all aspects of your life, because it was really fascinating to me. And the fact that you were sneaking around with us who were never doing anything bad.
Yeah.
It was just entertaining. So I cherish those moments. So
yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man. Thanks for doing the show. We'll talk to you soon. And have an awesome one, man. Have a safe trip over to Indiana. And I hope everything goes well over there, and hope your family's good. And we'll talk to you again, man. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, man. Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends podcast. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow the show. And check out some of the video clips posted on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Josh, and thank you for being a friend.